everybody? I'm Jerry, about to check out the hottest year in WWE history. This video is about Wrestle Mafia. This year is 2005. I feel like 2005 was like the height of the Ruthless Aggression era, where John Cena became the top guy, became WWE champion, and ended up going to Raw later on, like mid-summer. Then Batista became the top guy because they both won the championships at WrestleMania 21. Batista ultimately went on to go to SmackDown and became the face of SmackDown, while Cena became the face of Raw. Then Edge became the first ever Money in the Bank winner. He had this little storyline with Matt Hardy. What else happened in 05? We saw the death of Eddie Guerrero around November, so that was unfortunate. We saw some crazy stuff from Survivor Series that year, Raw versus SmackDown, where Randy Orton became the sole survivor of that match, amongst other things that happened in the year 2005. We about to hop into the video. Check out the hottest year in WWE history. Let's go.
A year that saw Edge steal Matt Hardy's girlfriend.
Yep.
When Randy Orton set The Undertaker on fire. When JBL made Cena bleed buckets. When Vince tore both his quads. When Batista gave Triple H the thumbs
I remember
down.
watching it.
When HBK made Hogan
That's when
look
Batista
like a
became
fool
my
in front
favorite
of the
wrestler.
world. When Rey and Eddie fought over the custody of Dominic. When ECW came back from the dead.
Yeah.
When two new champions were crowned on the grandest stage of them all. And these are just some of the things that happened in the unforgettable year of 2005. From a creative standpoint, 2005 was the year WWE finally moved on from the Attitude Era and embraced Ruthless Aggression.
Yeah.
The company had spent 3 years rebuilding after losing icons like The Rock and Austin. But rather than dwelling on the past, in 2005, WWE bet everything on creating new stars. The year had controversial storylines, personal angles, and two men in particular would rise to the top and change WWE for years to come. But what made 2005 so iconic? What were the feuds, the controversies, and the real-life drama that shaped WWE's future? Let's turn back the clock and revisit the hottest year in WWE history.
Chapter 1. The Royal Rumble.
Our story starts in January at the Royal Rumble. 30 men would compete to earn their ticket to the WrestleMania main event, and the stage was set for WWE's future. The final two competitors were Batista and John Cena, both men being groomed as the next big thing in WWE. The match was supposed to end with Batista eliminating Cena and earning his WrestleMania title shot.
I don't understand why they weren't
tumbled over the
co-winners.
top rope and hit the floor simultaneously in one of the
They
most
should have
infamous
became
botches in
co-winners.
WWE history.
Knowing that
Referees panicked, producers scrambled, and then, in a moment that became legendary for its absurdity, Vince McMahon stormed to the ring to restart the match. As the boss slid under the ropes, he legitimately tore both of his quads. Unable to stand, McMahon was forced to sit in the ring barking orders while his legs dangled beneath him. The visual was unintentionally hilarious, but the show had to go on. Batista won the restarted match as planned. But the real drama came in the following weeks as Triple H tried desperately to manipulate his protege. Heading into 2005, Triple H's reign of terror had suffocated Raw for over 2 years. Despite delivering some memorable matches, the game's stranglehold on the World Heavyweight Championship had grown stale. Meanwhile, his Evolution stablemate Batista was showing signs of independence, and fans were ready to see the animal break free. The game attempted to convince Batista to challenge JBL for the WWE Championship on SmackDown instead, allowing Evolution to control both brands. The puppet master pulled every string he could, but on the February 21st episode of Raw, Batista finally snapped. He gave Triple H the thumbs down, powerbombed him through a table, and completed his babyface turn. The stage was set for WrestleMania 21, where after 2 years of dominance, Triple H's reign of terror came to an end at the hands of his protege. The animal was unleashed, and he had taken over as the king of the jungle. But while Batista's rebellion dominated Raw's main event scene, another Evolution member was stuck in a fight against the dead that had changed the landscape of WrestleMania forever.
That day.
After being kicked out of Evolution, Randy Orton spent months floundering in the mid-card scene on Raw. But heading into WrestleMania 21, Orton needed to make a statement. And what better way to make a statement than by conquering the dead? The Legend Killer set his sights on the biggest legend of them all, The Undertaker and his undefeated WrestleMania streak. Before this, the streak hadn't always been marketed as the legendary spectacle it would later become. Before this, it was just a number. But heading into WrestleMania 21, WWE made the conscious decision to transform Undertaker's record into a Mania spectacle. Orton was the perfect opponent for this new direction. Young, cocky, and desperate to cement his legacy, the Legend Killer believed he could accomplish what no one else had. He mocked Taker's legacy, RKO'd his own girlfriend, attacked other WWE legends, and at WrestleMania 21 in Los Angeles, Taker and Orton collided in a match that would set the template for every other streak match that followed. For over 14 minutes, Orton threw everything he had at the dead man. But in the end, The Undertaker stood tall and kept his WrestleMania legacy intact. Most rivalries would have ended there, but Orton's obsession with destroying The Undertaker had only just begun. After a brief hiatus due to a shoulder injury, Orton returned to WWE and was drafted to SmackDown, putting him on the same brand as the Dead Man. What followed was a descent into madness that showcased just how unhinged the Legend Killer could become. Orton wasn't content with simply beating The Undertaker. He wanted to end him once and for all. The rivalry escalated with each passing week. Orton and his father attacked the Dead Man at every opportunity. They tricked him at SummerSlam. They mocked him with retirement fund DVDs. They presented him with a casket containing a mannequin. And at No Mercy in October, the Ortons defeated Undertaker in a handicap casket match, stuffing the Phenom inside and sealing him in. But that wasn't enough for Randy Orton. In one of the most shocking moments of the year, Orton drilled holes into the casket and then set it on fire with the Undertaker locked inside. For weeks, Orton reveled in his apparent victory, convinced he had finally ended The Undertaker's career. But the Dead Man doesn't die easily. Throughout the fall, supernatural occurrences began haunting Orton. The Undertaker returned from the grave, more powerful and vengeful than ever, tormenting Orton with mind games that drove the Legend Killer to the brink of a breakdown. The rivalry culminated at Armageddon inside Hell in a cell, where The Undertaker finally put the feud to rest with a definitive victory. The story of Orton's overconfidence and the Dead Man's resilience was one of the hottest feuds of the year. But more importantly, it cemented The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak as one of the most important narratives in WWE history. But while Batista was conquering Raw and Orton was battling the Supernatural on SmackDown, another megastar was rising who would define WWE for the next decade. John Cena had spent the majority of 2004 climbing the ranks on SmackDown and connecting with younger audiences with his rapper gimmick in ways WWE hadn't seen in years. By early 2005, it was clear that Cena had outgrown the United States Championship. He was ready for the main event, and WWE was ready to give him the ball. At WrestleMania 21, Cena challenged JBL for the WWE Championship, and when the referee's hand hit the mat for the 3 count, a new era had officially begun. But Cena's coronation came with an unexpected problem. Just 6 weeks after winning the title, WWE made a shocking decision. On June 6th, John Cena was drafted from SmackDown to Raw, taking the WWE Championship with him. The move was designed to position Cena as the face of the company on WWE's flagship show. Instead, it exposed him to a much harsher spotlight. On Raw, Cena's character began to shift. The edgy rapper persona was softened into a more superhero-like babyface. He started wearing colorful shirts and promoting hustle, loyalty, and respect. Kids loved it, but the hardcore fans hated it. Throughout the summer and fall, Cena defended his title against Chris Jericho and Kurt Angle in excellent matches, but the crowd reactions kept growing hostile. By the time Unforgiven rolled around in September, Cena was being loudly booed despite being the champion babyface. The company had created a star, but they hadn't anticipated the backlash. But while Cena continued his ascent on Raw, his future biggest rival was stuck in a love triangle that would take personal feuds to a new level. Matt Hardy and Lita had been dating since 1999.
That was crazy.
By early 2005, Hardy was out with a knee injury and suggested that his girlfriend travel with their old friend Edge on the road to keep her company. Edge was married at the time and considered a trusted friend. Matt thought she'd be safe, but he was wrong. Edge and Lita began an affair behind Hardy's back. When Edge's wife discovered incriminating phone calls between the two, she informed Matt about the relationship. Heartbroken and furious, Hardy broke up with Lita and began dropping hints on his website about what had happened. The situation exploded into public view, and WWE's immediate response was to fire Matt Hardy. However, the decision backfired spectacularly. Fans rallied behind Hardy. They brought signs to WWE events, they chanted his name, and the heat was so intense that WWE had no choice but to bring Hardy back and turn the real-life drama into a storyline. On July 11th, Matt Hardy returned to Raw and attacked Edge backstage, screaming that he was going to make his life a living hell. The worked shoots blurred reality and fiction in uncomfortable ways as both men referenced the affair openly on television. Lita called Matt obsessive. Edge claimed the situation was ruining his life. Matt admitted he'd been shopping for wedding rings before everything fell apart. The feud culminated in a series of matches at SummerSlam, Unforgiven, and Raw, with Edge winning the majority of them. In the end, Hardy lost a loser leaves Raw ladder match
Y'all been
and was
together
sent
since
to
1999. It
SmackDown.
took
Edge
you
and
that
Lita
long to
remained
figure out you
together
weren't the
on
married
Raw,
leader.
and their real-life relationship gave rise to one of the most hated couples in WWE history. But if the Edge and Lita situation was personal, nothing could prepare fans for the soap opera that was about to unfold on SmackDown.
R.I.P. Eddie.
Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio were best friends. They'd won the WWE Tag Team Championships together earlier in the year. But Eddie, ever the master manipulator, had become consumed by jealousy. Rey kept beating him. Rey kept overshadowing him. And Eddie couldn't accept being second best. The breaking point came when Eddie brutally assaulted Rey and ripped his mask off on live television. What followed was a character transformation that showcased Eddie's incredible range as a performer. The Latino Heat became unhinged, desperate, and willing to do anything to destroy his former friend. At Judgment Day, Eddie beat up Rey with a steel chair. But that wasn't enough for Eddie. Eddie had a secret, one he'd been holding over Rey's head for weeks. Eddie finally revealed the truth that Rey Mysterio wasn't Dominic's biological father. Eddie claimed that years ago, when Rey couldn't have children, Eddie had given his son to the Mysterio family. Now, he wanted Dominic back. Custody papers were presented, social workers got involved, and at SummerSlam, the two competed in a ladder match where the winner would gain legal custody of the child. For 15 minutes, Eddie and Rey delivered another excellent performance, while a terrified Dominic watched from ringside. Vickie Guerrero, Eddie's real-life wife, ultimately betrayed her husband by pushing over the ladder, allowing Rey to grab the custody papers and keep his son. While the storyline was ridiculous on paper, but Eddie and Rey's performances were so committed, so emotionally raw, that fans couldn't look away. It remains one of the most talked about angles in WWE history. But while some storylines in 2005 pushed the boundaries of personal vendetta, others were based on pure wrestling excellence.
Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle.
For years, people had called Shawn Michaels the greatest wrestler in WWE history, and Kurt Angle was determined to prove that statement was a lie. Over the following weeks, Angle embarked on a mission to recreate and surpass all of Michaels' greatest moments. He made fun of HBK's iconic ladder match win. He brought back Marty Jannetty to mock the Rockers. He even dressed up as Michaels himself, complete with chaps, sensational sherry, and a hilarious rendition of HBK's theme song. But when all the games were over, at WrestleMania 21, the two finally collided in what many consider the greatest match in WrestleMania history. For 27 minutes, Angle and Michaels delivered a 5-star classic that justified every ounce of hype. Angle won with the ankle lock, but both men proved they belonged in the conversation as all-time greats. But following his loss to Angle, Shawn Michaels found himself in another dream match scenario, this one decades in the making. Hulk Hogan, the immortal icon of the 1980s, had returned to WWE for a brief run. The company wasted no time booking Hogan and Michaels in a tag team match, which naturally led to the two agreeing to face each other one-on-one. Behind the scenes, however, tensions were brewing. The plan had been for Michaels and Hogan to wrestle a series of matches, with each man getting a victory. But Hogan, never one to willingly lose his spot, politicked his way into only agreeing to a single match at SummerSlam. And of course, the Hulkster would be going over. Shawn Michaels was furious. He'd spent years working his way back to the top of the WWE. But now Hogan, who hadn't been a full-time performer in years, was refusing to put him over. So Michaels decided to make a statement in the most Shawn Michaels way possible.
What spot?
At SummerSlam
you ain't even
on
an
August
active wrestler,
21st,
dude.
HBK delivered one of the most ridiculous performances in wrestling history, which was a masterclass in pettiness. For 20 minutes,
Shawn Michaels
turned the match into a comedy routine by overselling every single move Hogan threw at him. A simple shove sent Michaels spinning through the air. A boot to the face caused him to flip completely over. The Toronto crowd ate it up, laughing and cheering as Michaels made a mockery of Hogan's offense. Hogan got the pinfall victory as agreed, but everyone watching knew the truth. Shawn Michaels had won the war. The match became an instant classic for all the wrong reasons, and Hogan never worked with Michaels again. But apart from these memorable matches and rivalries, 2005 also had other historic moments that defined the year. On June 12th, WWE presented ECW One Night Stand, a pay-per-view dedicated to the Extreme Wrestling promotion that had closed its doors 4 years earlier. The Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City became a time machine as legends like Sabu, Sandman, and Tommy Dreamer returned to recapture the magic. The show was so successful that it planted the seeds for ECW's eventual revival as a WWE brand. But just as the year seemed to be reaching its peak, tragedy struck. On November 13th, Eddie Guerrero was found unresponsive in his Minneapolis hotel room. The 38-year-old had suffered a massive heart attack brought on by years of substance abuse that had taken its toll on his body. His nephew Chavo discovered him, but it was too late. One of the most beloved performers in wrestling history was gone.
Yeah,
the wrestling world mourned. Tribute shows replaced Raw and SmackDown.
I remember
Wrestlers
watching both
broke
those
down in
shows
tears
at
on
the
live
time.
television. Eddie's death cast a shadow over the final months of 2005, reminding everyone that behind the larger-than-life characters, real human lives hung in the balance. By the time 2005 ended, WWE had accomplished what many thought impossible. They'd created two legit main event stars in Batista and John Cena. They'd elevated the Undertaker streak into a WrestleMania tradition. They'd pushed the boundaries of reality with controversial storylines. And they'd delivered some of the greatest matches in company history. The pieces were in place for WWE's next chapter, but the memories of 2005, both triumphant and tragic, would echo through the company for years to come. It truly was one of the hottest years in WWE history.
Alright, y'all, that was a great video, man. He really broke down everything that happened, just about everything that happened notable in 2005, like from the start of the Royal Rumble when Batista and John Cena both went over the top rope at the same time. Then they had to restart the whole match. Vince tore his quads ultimately until Eddie Guerrero passed away in November, like a couple weeks before Survivor Series. I remember exactly watching his last match on SmackDown against King Kennedy in the Survivor Series qualifying match. He won by disqualification because he pulled the smoking gun on Kennedy, and at the time Kennedy was undefeated. And over the weekend, I say that Sunday night, that's when he passed away, and Monday morning the news came out that he was gone. And I remember watching that episode of Raw and SmackDown when it happened, when they did the tribute and everything. So it was a pretty sad moment watching it in real time. But overall, this was a great video, man. Shout out to Wrestle Mafia for an incredible breakdown of the year 2005 and all these other years that he did. Thank y'all for watching me, man. Love y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.